My husband won 50 million and came back with his mistress, saying he wanted a divorce and would leave me with nothing, telling me to pack my things and go back to my hometown overnight. Half a month later, the heatwave arrived, leaving corpses everywhere. I was curled up alone in my rural villa stocked with supplies, enjoying the air conditioning, cooking hot pot, and occasionally eating some watermelon, feeling quite content. Meanwhile, my husband was begging with our son and his mistress in the neighborhood, greedily licking up the last drop of water they could beg for, comforting himself. I have money, with money, I can buy everything, thinking about my past life when they locked me in the basement, dehydrated and fainting, ultimately being cruelly dismembered. Rich, first buy back your own life before anything else. I fainted from dehydration in the heat, finally waking up in pain, and in a daze. I saw my husband with our son and his white moonlight dismembering me, drinking my blood and eating my flesh. My resentment was overwhelming, and in a flash of light, I returned to the day my husband proposed divorce. Jessin is already pregnant. I warn you not to cling on any longer. Xiao Qingze pushed me angrily, his spit flying everywhere, his domineering demeanor suffocating. His white moonlight, Shin Jessin, was hiding behind him, coaxing my son with candies and toys, in a daze. I felt the cold air from the air conditioner, the suffocating sensation of being burned and dehydrated to death in my past life, along with the pain of being dismembered, was just fading away. I hurriedly took a few deep breaths of fresh air. Looking at the grotesque face of Xiao Qingze in front of me, I suppressed the rising hatred in my heart and readily agreed to divorce him. He was taken aback, not expecting me to give in so easily, and suspiciously said, "Really? You're not trying to pull a fast one on me, are you?" I glanced at the calendar on my phone. There were only 7 days left until the deadly heatwave, and time was running out. Either we go to the Civil Affairs Bureau now, or I'll just turn around and leave. Xiao Qingze, you decide, the son urged with a face full of disdain. Who cares if she has any tricks? A woman like her, old and ugly, doesn't deserve to be my mom. You have to divorce her for me to recognize Aunt Jessin as my new mom. Shin Jessin cast a shy and timid glance in response. Xiao Qingze shuddered all over, almost unable to hold back, eagerly getting into the car to go with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau. All the way, Xiao Qingze was grinning foolishly, while my son didn't even glance at me, buried in Shin Jia's embrace, reluctant to part. I was driving, struggling to suppress the urge to crash the car with the three of them off the overpass, on the eve of the deadly heatwave. He locked me in the basement with his son and his white moonlight, leaving me to suffer from the heat in the basement, dehydrated and unconscious, and then he even dismembered me to drink my blood and eat my flesh. In this life, I swear to make them pay in blood for their debts. When dividing the assets, I only took my savings cards from these years, totaling 200,000. Xiao Qingze couldn't help but boast. Look how good I am to you. You've been living in my house for free all these years. And I never made you pay rent. My heart was filled with sarcasm and disdain, and I tried to control the impulse to slap him. Considering that you are so sensible to divorce, I will give you an extra 100,000, so you won't end up like a yellow-faced woman scavenging for food on the streets. I gladly accepted the 100,000 transferred by Xiao Qingxian. One can have conflicts with fools, but one will never go against money. Moreover, I know that Xiao Qingze is very wealthy now. 2 days ago, he won a 50 million lottery jackpot and wanted to be with his first love before claiming the prize, so he went to great lengths to divorce me. In my previous life, I was unaware. At that time, I desperately tried to keep my husband and our third-grade son, doing everything I could to maintain my family and not let it fall apart, until I saw my husband's first love, Shin Jessin, post a close-up photo of them together on social media, captioned, "After many years apart." Through the twists and turns of life, it's still you. The photo of Xiao Qingze shows him smiling, completely different from the impatient look he usually has when facing me. Thinking about the attitude of Shin Jessin's family towards me after she returned from abroad, my husband mocks me, saying that I only know how to ask men for money with my palm up, showing no self-respect or dignity. My elementary school son complains that I won't let him play games or eat snacks, calling me a worthless woman and a bad thing. In my previous life, I rushed to the scene and slapped Shin Jessin, cursing her for being a shameless woman who seduced other people's husbands. only to be locked in a basement by them. One slap cannot make up for the pain I endured in my previous life. I want them to die 100 or 1,000 times more painfully than I did. As I came out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I watched my son rush into Shinjusen's arms, while Xiaoqingze happily pulled the two of them together, and the three of them laughed contentedly. Laugh now, but soon you won't be able to laugh anymore. After returning home, I immediately started making plans on how to buy supplies to protect myself. Halfway through the plan, Xiaoqingze came back with his son. Seeing his smug expression, I guessed he had already exchanged and received the 50 million. I couldn't be bothered with those two and continued to write and draw on my tablet. My son ran over to me shouting, "I want to go abroad with Dad. Hurry up and pack our things. I'm not your babysitter. You can find whoever you want." My son angrily threw a toy at me. "You're my mom, so you have to work like a slave for me, otherwise, I'll have Dad hit you." A corner of the toy scratched my leg, and looking at my self-righteous son, I secretly resented myself for giving birth to such a child. A glance at my ex-husband confirmed it. He was indeed Xiaoqingze's son. Just as selfish, before having a child, I was an executive at a publicly listed company, but after my son was born, he couldn't be away from me. Whenever I wasn't by his side, he would cry loudly, and I had to change nannies several times. For his growth, I gave up my career and became a housewife for 10 years, but in my previous life, when the heat wave arrived, they indulged in the daily resources I had hoarded, living quite happily even in the midst of a heat wave apocalypse. Meanwhile, I was gasping for breath in the basement. I begged my son for a chance to live, yet, in order to please Shinjia, he even blocked the ventilation of the basement, allowing me to faint and die. I didn't die all at once. Instead, I watched them pick up the bone-cutting knife and stab it into my body, in my dying moments. I even heard their family greedily shouting, "Quick, find a basin to catch it. The blood can be drunk too. She weighs over 100 pounds. That's enough for us to drink for a while." My son lunged at me first, biting into my blood vessel. "Take a step back and the sea will be vast and open. Endure for a moment and the winds will be calm." I slapped my son across the face, leaving his cheeks swollen. He lunged at me trying to bite, shouting for me to go back to the countryside. But I lifted him up and hit him. I glanced at Xiaoqingze, who was watching the play, and spoke lightly. "Are you sure you won't take care of the child? Don't forget we're still in the cooling-off period. If you provoke me, I'll disappear in 30 days, and you won't get the certificate." He then came up to mediate. "The son is yours. What's wrong with packing him some clothes? Can a son be born by just one person?" Xiaoqingze couldn't argue with me. Awkwardly packed a few short-sleeved shirts and shorts, and dragged my son, who was making faces at me, out the door. Before leaving, he pretended to be deeply affectionate and asked me to stay for a while. I did not agree. The buildings in the city will soon face water and electricity cuts after the apocalypse. They will not be of any use and will easily be attacked by neighbors. In this life, let this place become the burial ground for the Xiao family. As Xiaoqingze left with his son, I hurriedly packed my things and rummaged through the basement. During the 3 years of the pandemic, I developed a habit of stockpiling supplies, and I stored quite a bit of food in the basement, enough to last about 3 months. This time, I will take it all with me. 20 boxes of mineral water. Water is the most scarce resource in this scorching apocalypse. I must take it. 10 bags of rice, 10 bags of flour, 5 barrels of oil. I went through a lot of trouble to get this pile into the basement, so I quickly called a moving service to take it away. The various vegetable pots planted on the balcony are what I painstakingly nurtured. How can I leave them behind for this family of worthless dogs? Lightweight summer clothes and summer blankets, wearing clothes and covering with blankets in high temperatures. I directly packed them up and threw them into the donation box downstairs. I only left this family a pile of long-sleeved winter clothes and a few thick quilts, so they can truly feel what extreme heat is like. I casually picked up the hammer from the toolbox and gave the air conditioner a few hard hits. The already dilapidated air conditioner emitted a few buzzing sounds. I hope the 3 of them have good constitutions, wearing long sleeves in the continuous high temperature of 50 degrees. Without food or water, can still be full of energy. As I struggled to clear out this home, I inadvertently caught sight of a familiar bone-cutting knife. My son loved to eat meat, and this was originally used for chopping bones, but unexpectedly in my previous life, it became the tool they used to dismember me and drink my blood. After staring for a moment, I casually took it out of the cabinet and placed it on the countertop. Finally, I looked around this house that seemed unchanged but was actually empty of supplies. I ordered several monitors again and installed them in hidden locations. By the time I finished, it was already past 2 in the afternoon. I couldn't care less about the high temperature outside and hurriedly drove back to my hometown with my things. I am now a lonely person. My parents passed away one after the other during my high school years, leaving me only a piece of land. The elderly people in the village kindly supported me, contributing 100 from your family, 300 from mine, and 500 from his, to help this female college student. Before production, I was a hard worker, disregarding Xiaoqing's objections, and returned to my hometown to build this 2-story rural villa. On the day the house was completed, I bowed and thanked each family while repaying them with gifts. When the house was being built, most of the villagers came to help, using not only the best building materials but also preparing 8 solar photovoltaic panels. To avoid potential wild animals from the mountains, a wall was built, and an electric fence was specially installed around the house. It was clearly 35 degrees in the summer, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud while standing in my yard. Thanks to my stubbornness back then, this self-built villa nestled by the mountains and water, equipped with complete facilities, is my greatest confidence in resisting the extreme heat apocalypse and treating the villagers. With only 2 weeks left until the apocalypse arrives, I began to check the hardware situation of the small villa. I contacted workers to install a water purification system, and I also bought several large household batteries and power banks, so that even if the solar panels break down, I can still live off self-generated electricity. There also needs to be enough cooling sources, although I have a complete set of fresh air conditioning installed at home. I still uneasily bought 7 or 8 standing fans and a matching humidifier, ensuring that I can enjoy a comfortable cool breeze even after the apocalypse. The freezer at home is also not enough. I directly purchased a row of commercial freezers on the shelf and selected 10 generators. Fortunately, my house is big enough that stacking so many items doesn't feel crowded at all. Looking at the layout of my home, I called to order 5 super large water storage tanks for household fish ponds, a row of household breeding cages, and a set of indoor planting tools, waiting for the workers to deliver the goods the next day. After buying these, my money was almost gone. I didn't hesitate and directly opened my phone to frantically download loan apps, which lent me nearly $1 million. After installing the water purification system, it was already very late at night. I hurriedly ate a few bites of food and then lay down to rest. There were still many things to arrange for tomorrow. I took a look at the things I have prepared so far, and it's almost ready. I started preparing daily necessities. Since I spent a long time in the basement in my previous life, I don't know how long the high-temperature apocalypse will last, so I only consider the quantity when buying things, not the quality. The best is high-cost performance. I bought dozens of cows, sheep, pigs, and chickens that were freshly killed at the market, asking the vendors to cut and categorize them for me. I also bought a batch of easy-to-raise rabbits and about 20 hens, planning to keep them in a small partition in the yard as a reserve for fresh meat. I stocked up on heat-resistant vegetable seeds and fertilizers in bags in the yard. There is still plenty of time, so I rushed into the wholesale supermarket without stopping. I got 400 bags of rice and flour each. I ordered 500 barrels of bottled water. Various seasonings were also thrown into the shopping cart by the box. I bought a lot of instant meals like self-heating rice and hot pot, just in case I can't cook when the time comes. These things can fill me up. Thinking that there is still a week until the apocalypse, I bought dozens of boxes of snacks, drinks, and fruits, also various daily necessities and kitchenware. When I was checking out, the shopkeeper was taken aback, and I had to tell him that these were for donation. Only then did he happily send a vehicle to deliver my supplies back to the village. After leaving the supermarket, I went to the local fish pond and bought 10 of each of 5 types of fish that are easy to raise, as well as some small fish fry, preparing to throw them into the fish pond for my own breeding. Passing by a clothing store, I packed up all the lightweight, quick-drying clothes and also bought some winter clothes for emergencies. Finally, I rushed into the pharmacy and bought dozens of boxes of all kinds of medications. I especially cleared out all the brands for heatstroke, dehydration, and insect bites. I drove a 7-seater car and made 3 trips back and forth to bring all the purchased items home. After finishing everything, I opened my phone to check on the Xiao family. As soon as I opened my social media, I saw the big face of Xiao Qingze. It is not hard to see that they are having a great time abroad, staying in luxurious 5-star hotels that cost thousands per night, eating freshly caught delicious seafood. Even the son received a complete set of video game products sent by Shinjusen. Looking at the 3 of them who were completely absorbed in their fun, I couldn't help but show a motherly smile. Go ahead and play. Enjoy your last wild celebration in life. Early the next morning, I opened the door, planning to go around the village to confirm the number of people and the general state of supplies, to make early arrangements for everyone. This time, I wanted to help the villagers get through the apocalypse together. There are a total of 53 households in the village, all of whom have been very kind to me. I visited each and every one of them, and before leaving, I advised them to stock up on supplies, fill their water tanks, and store more potatoes, sweet potatoes, taro, and other durable crops in the cellar. After returning home, I quickly ordered 2 drones to facilitate the transportation of supplies when the time comes. After thinking it over, I ordered a few electric batons, but unfortunately, I really didn't have enough money. Otherwise, would have bought some additional protective measures. In the following days, I kept organizing supplies and even took the time to buy myself a 1 terabyte iPad, categorizing good novels, TV dramas, variety shows, and anime for entertainment after the apocalypse. As the high temperatures of my previous life approached, the weather showed no signs of change, and I even began to have a hint of doubt. Could it be that with my rebirth, the high temperatures would no longer reappear? Although I don't want to see the apocalyptic scene again, just thinking about how the Xiao family can survive with their fortune fills me with an inexplicable anger. But the very next day, the weather changed drastically, and my heart sank. The apocalypse had arrived. It had just rained yesterday, but the temperatures suddenly soared. I opened my phone to check. At 11 o'clock, it was 38 degrees. At 11:15, it was 40 degrees. At 12 o'clock, it was 45 degrees. The weather app kept sending out red alerts for high temperatures. Netizens were also lamenting, having to work on such a hot day. I'm not just tired, I'm cursed. The company has already taken out 3 people suffering from heatstroke. This year's temperatures are truly outrageous. Maybe the end of the world due to the heat is coming, and we will all be baked to death. I really want to go home. This terrible weather could kill me at any moment. My heart is getting heavier. It has indeed come. It was the same in my previous life. After the rain, the temperature rose sharply, soaring to 55 degrees the next afternoon and staying there, causing many people to die from heatstroke and dehydration without any warning. I replied under the comments about the extreme heat apocalypse, saying that this year's temperatures are abnormal and suggesting everyone stock up on supplies just in case, but it drew a wave of ridicule and mockery. Are you really that foolish from reading novels? Do you actually think there's an apocalypse in this world? Here comes another doomsday theory. Can't we hope for something good? What good is stocking up in such hot weather? Everything will spoil. Then my reply was deleted by the platform, with the reason being, spreading rumors and maliciously causing panic. Before I could continue trying, my account was banned by the platform. I put away my phone. Harsh words are hard to hear. Forget it. I just hope my brief reply can draw some attention from a few people. Yu-Ru? My name is Lin Yu-Ru. Are you home? I heard you came back from the city. Uncle wants to trouble you with something. A voice calling for me came from outside the door. I opened the door to find the village chief, who had arrived at my house in just 15 minutes from the village committee. He was drenched in sweat, his cheeks flushed. Several people from the village went out to work in the fields today, fertilizing the crops, but in this scorching heat, they suffered from heatstroke. I see you have a car. Could you please help us? I nodded and drove the villagers for a trip. It was within my capabilities. On the way, I kept informing them about the impending crisis, and a few simple villagers became so confused by my words that they ended up loading a full car of food and water to take home. As soon as I got home, my phone buzzed with a notification from the monitoring software. I took out my phone and saw that Xiaoqingze had returned from traveling abroad with our son and Shinjusen. The three of them burst in and turned on the air conditioning full blast. Yet they were cursing and complaining about everything, blaming the heavens. Our son was shouting for ice cream, but Xiaoqingze was slumped on the sofa, motionless. It was Shinjusen who took out her phone to order takeout, which finally stopped our son's wailing. Due to the high temperatures, there were very few delivery drivers, and we waited a full 3 hours for the takeout to arrive. After having takeout for a while, Xiaoqingze embraced Shinjusen and took her back to the room. But what they didn't expect was that when they woke up, they would be greeted by a world of drastic changes. At this moment, the supermarkets and markets outside were packed with people. Those with a sense of crisis were stockpiling water and food in large quantities, and no one knew how long this situation would last. The high temperatures, just like in the previous life, arrived as expected. In my previous life, I only lived for 3 months. This time, with a fresh start, I must take control of my own fate. I turned on the air conditioner and humidifier, setting it to 26 degrees, which is a relatively healthy and ecological temperature. Looking out at the plants outside, their leaves turning yellow from the scorching heat, I felt relieved that everything was arranged properly. I turned on the TV, and the news was continuously reporting various incidents caused by the high temperatures. The southern part of the United States facing tornadoes and extreme heat, the Amazon rainforest experiencing sustained high temperatures, causing many plants and animals to faint. In the Red Circle country, thousands have died from heatstroke, and currently, companies have halted operations, schools are closed, and aside from some large chain supermarkets still operating, most other businesses have basically shut down. Netizens also began to panic. Some were furiously cursing the damned weather online, others angrily quit their jobs to stay home and rest, while some noticed something was wrong and started buying supplies, especially at night. When the sky is dark, the temperature shows no sign of dropping. More and more people, just to be safe, started going out to buy drinking water. Looking at the surveillance footage, the three people still sprawled at home enjoying the air conditioning, watching the news with an indifferent expression. I couldn't help but sneer inside. Shinjusen nestled in Xiaoqingze's arms and whispered softly, "Xiao Gu, it's so chaotic outside right now. Should we go out and buy some water?" "No need. That yellow-faced woman loves to stock up on things. There's everything in the basement. It's crowded at the supermarket now. What if you get hurt?" "But I'm carrying your precious son. I want to eat something delicious." Xiaoqingze impatiently threw his phone to Shinjusen. "What can't money buy? Just hire someone to run errands." Shinjusen frowned slightly, feeling a bit dissatisfied, while her son was quick to snatch the phone and ordered a lot of snacks, drinks, and toys for himself. Unfortunately, the weather outside was so hot that eggs would cook through in just a few minutes. The items for the three of them didn't arrive until after 10 o'clock at night. I looked at the supplies they bought, and aside from 3 lavish Chinese meals, there was only a pile of snacks, drinks, and toys that kids love. As expected, they were all impractical items. Xiaoqingze was still cursing the delivery guy, while his son was already so hungry that his eyes were spinning, grabbing a bag of snacks from the ground and stuffing it into his mouth. "Reborn as a starving ghost, just like your yellow-faced mother. You're useless. I have plenty of money. How could I let you go hungry?" Xiaoqingze slapped his son on the head, causing his son to throw the takeout at him in anger. The food was scattered everywhere, a complete mess, making it impossible to eat. Shinjusen gently tried to persuade him a few times, but the resentment on her son's face still did not fade. In my previous life, Xiaoqingze handed all the child-rearing responsibilities to me. When he was in a good mood, he would buy some food for our son and take him to the amusement park a few times. When he was in a bad mood, he would say that earning money to support the family was too hard alone and would send our son to me because I was stricter with him. Over time, our son grew to resent me more and more. Now that I am not around, the two of them face each other day and night, and various conflicts and issues have arisen. Although the son is bad, he is not stupid and quickly sees through this good father's true nature. With Shinjusen as a catalyst and the shadow of survival in the apocalypse, their lives still have a chance to go on. The night is hazy, yet there is no sign of the temperature dropping. In my previous life, apart from the first month when I went out to look for supplies, I basically stayed in the basement, had no contact with the outside world, and knew almost nothing, this time, facing the unknown fate. My heart is in turmoil, heavy like a stone pressing down on me, but looking at the well-stocked and vibrant home, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. At least for now. I have no worries about food and clothing, and no hardship can compare to the difficulties of my previous life. While it's over 50 degrees outside, the air conditioning is blowing cool air inside. I plan to have a hot pot meal to welcome the end of the world. I rummaged through the fridge and pulled out meatballs, tripe, shrimp paste, duck intestines, fatty beef, fatty lamb, gourd, oilseed lettuce, and mushrooms, and prepared myself a sumptuous spicy beef tallow hot pot. I always feel like something is missing, so I took a bottle of chilled cola from the fridge, grabbed my iPad, and started eating while watching. Just as I was enjoying my meal, my phone rang. Who could it be calling at this time? It turned out to be Xiaoqingzi. I opened the surveillance footage, and they were in the basement. I found that there wasn't a single bag of rice or flour, and I was furious. Where has all the food in the house gone? And the air conditioning is all broken. It burned out without much use. Why didn't you get someone to fix it? You worthless woman. Do you want to kill me? Xiaoqingzi shouted angrily. I bought and moved these things. Of course I'm taking them. Have you taken care of the household matters in these years? The air conditioner was secondhand. It works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. I told you to replace it. Did you hear me? Just suffer through it yourself. Lin Yu, you shameless person, you're so greedy for this little benefit. It's no wonder you can't make any money. Ah, right. I'm poor and I'm proud of it. If you have money, go buy a new one, idiot. He still wanted to open his mouth to curse at me, but unfortunately, I am no longer the woman from my past life who let him vent without retorting. With a quick press, I hung up the phone. I opened the surveillance footage, and Xiaoqingzi tried dialing a few more times, but unfortunately, I had already turned off my phone. Seeing that he couldn't get through, he rushed into the basement to look for food, and eventually began to rage in frustration. There was no way to go back upstairs, so I yelled angrily at Shinjusin, "There's nothing to eat at home. The air conditioning doesn't work well. Our son is throwing food around. I entrusted this family to you. How can you not even handle this little thing properly?" Shinjusin was stunned on the spot by his shout. "Now you think the white moonlight isn't good? This is the good woman you've been longing for. So annoying. If you don't have it, just buy it with money." The son was playing with toy cars in the living room, looking impatiently at Xiaoqingzi. Xiaoqingzi didn't have a good expression for him either. "The temperature outside is so high that there are no delivery riders taking orders. You say it so easily. Why don't you go do it yourself?" The son nonchalantly pulled out a bag of chips. "If there's no food, we still have snacks. If I'm hungry, just let my mom deliver it." Xiaoqingzi was so angry at his son that his face turned red. Shinjusin seized this opportunity and kept whispering something next to Xiaoqingzi, watching the three of them on the screen, each with their own hidden agendas. I casually grilled a few slices of fatty beef and dipped them in sesame sauce. They were truly tender and delicious. On the second day of the heat wave, the temperature rose to nearly 60 degrees. Just like in my previous life, most of the leaves in the yard curled up, and although I had set up a straw shed in advance, its effect was minimal. I had no choice but to sadly pick the original vegetables and put them in the refrigerator to keep warm. I turned on the TV, and the news was playing on a loop. Citizens are advised not to go outside due to the ongoing high temperatures. The country is prepared for heavy rainfall. Please be patient and wait. I don't know what will happen in the future. Trying to search for some information online, I found that everyone is in a bad mood, tormented by the high temperatures, and many people are wailing, "Help! Can anyone spare some food for me? I haven't stocked up, and I have no food left." The water pipe has also been damaged by the heat, and after 2 days of reporting it, no one dares to come. "I'll pay 1,000. Can anyone bring me 2 bottles of water? Family, my air conditioner is broken, and it feels like a big steamer. Who can come to save me?" I turned off my phone and closed my eyes. I don't have the ability to protect everyone. I can only protect myself, and if I have the energy, I will protect those around me. Thinking of this, I controlled the drone to fly around. Every family in the village has stocked up on food and water for several months, and so far, there seemed to be no major issues. As the drone flew by, I felt a sense of comfort seeing some uncles and aunts waving at it. On the 6th day of the heatwave apocalypse, the power went out, the temperature remained very stable, stubbornly staying at a high of 60 degrees. In such hot temperatures, many forest areas have experienced spontaneous combustion, and wildfires are spreading everywhere. With many villages near the mountains being completely burned overnight, tens of thousands of people have already died outside. Some died from heat, while others suffered from heatstroke and dehydration. Multiple departments have jointly issued a statement urging everyone not to go outside and to take precautions against heat. The government will airdrop supplies every 3 days. I opened the surveillance footage from my ex-husband's house. The three of them looked pale and emaciated from hunger. Xiao Qingze was completely naked, lying in the bathtub with Shen Jiasin to cool off. Their son was squeezed onto the floor, leaning against the bathtub to absorb a bit of coolness, and when it became unbearable from the heat, he buried his head in the bathtub to cool down. However, with the indoor temperature at 60 degrees, the water in the bathtub soon began to emit waves of heat. The son was rolling on the ground in discomfort, but neither Xiao Qingze nor Shen Jiasin could pay him any mind. They had no mood to care for him. Shen Jiasin took the initiative to bring up the issue of supplies. "Brother, there isn't much water and food at home, and no one outside is taking orders. Why don't you go out and get some airdrops? You want me to go out in this hot weather? Do you want me to die from the heat? I'll give you money, you go out and get it." The son watched as Xiao Qingze and the others pushed the blame onto each other, crying on the floor and demanding that Shen Jiasin be let out, or else he wouldn't recognize her as his mother. Shen Jiasin was unwilling. She gently rubbed against Xiao Qingze's arm while acting coy, saying, "I just got pregnant with your child, and I'm so delicate. If I go out, I might faint from the heat, but little Bao is young, full of energy, strong, and can run fast." Seeing this situation, the son quickly got up from the floor and hid back in the room. Xiao Qingze cursed a few times before finally taking out his phone and tapping a few times. I saw a message pop up in the community group, 601 seeking to buy water and any food. Price is negotiable. As the old saying goes, wealth should not be flaunted. Xiao Qingze's mind seems to be muddled, fearing that he will be robbed. The high temperature weather is still ongoing. At this time, Xiao Qingze managed to obtain supplies in the community. I know the person providing the supplies. He is a well-known good-for-nothing in our community, Wang Jing. Unfortunately, the 2,000 yuan that Xiao Qingze offered was nowhere near enough to satisfy Wang Jing's appetite. "What? Only 2,000? Are you trying to insult me? Give me 20,000, and I'll get you the water." "How can a few bottles of water and some stale bread cost 20,000? Are you out of your mind?" Before Xiao Qingze could finish his sentence, he was knocked to the ground by a punch from the man across from him. After being hit, Xiao Qingze shouted in panic that he would call the police, but Huang Jing just smiled and slapped him again. "Ha ha ha, in this hot weather, the police won't be able to save you in time. Either pay up, or I'll kill your whole family and eat them." Xiao Qingze didn't dare to stand up to the burly Huang Jing, trembling as he took out his phone and transferred 20,000, as he was about to leave. Huang Jing lewdly eyed Shen Jiasin a few times. "Oh, beautiful, you look so good. It's a shame to be with this weakling. I've got water and food. If you're starving, remember to come to room 301, I'll make sure to feed you all." As soon as Huang Jing left, Xiao Qingze furiously turned his hands on Shen Jiasin. "You shameless woman, flirting with everyone, trying to put a green hat on me. I'm telling you, you're nothing but promiscuous. If you keep flirting with other men, I won't let you spend a single cent of my money in the future." Shen Jiasin was beaten to her knees, begging for mercy, which finally made Xiao Qingze stop. Looking back, the son was already enjoying water and bread, crumbs scattering all over the floor, leaving nothing for the others. Xiao Qingze, furious, directly locked his son in the basement and only let him out at night. After such a commotion, the three members of the Xiao family fell into a complete cold war. I happily hummed a song while preparing braised pork, rich and savory, paired with northeast rice. Eating 3 bowls in a row was no problem at all. Just as I was enjoying my meal, I heard the alarm from my home surveillance system. The village chief was standing at my door with a few younger uncles, carrying tools like hoes and axes behind him. The malice I felt in my past life during the apocalypse sent a chill rising up from the soles of my feet. Ding ding ding, the doorbell rang again. "Xiao Lin, it's Uncle Village Chief. Please open the door for me." The village chief's words came through the intercom like a death knell. In the past, I found this voice kind and lovely, but now it feels terrifying. I casually picked up a stun baton and ran to the front gate to ask what was the matter. The village chief, hearing my response, spoke anxiously. "With this high temperature, I'm worried that the trees on the back mountain will catch fire. Since it's a bit cooler today, I want to take some people to clear a fire break. Several people are close to heatstroke. Do you have any medicine for heatstroke at home?" I picked up the binoculars and looked at the back mountain. Sure enough, a circle of dead trees had disappeared. Only then did I feel relieved and stepped out with a large bag of medicine. The village chief pulled out a few bottles of Wuxiangjingqi from the box and stuffed the rest back into my hands. "We have enough for now. The world is unstable, so take care of yourself." After saying that, he left with his people. Looking at the back of Uncle Village Head as he left, I felt a bit melancholic. I don't know how long this heat will last, and how much longer we can maintain this mutual support. I firmly placed the electric baton I was holding at the door and went back inside to bury myself in sleep. I don't know if my kindness in this apocalyptic world is right, and I feel a bit strange being so guarded against everyone. However, the apocalypse really can change a person beyond recognition. More than half a month has passed, and the temperature outside still remains at 55 to 60 degrees. The air becoming increasingly dry, and the situation in the village is starting to worsen. Although the village chief broadcasts news daily to encourage everyone, some people still collapse due to food shortages. To help my fellow villagers, my drone delivers food every day, sending it to one family after another, and I always manage to bring back some potatoes, sweet potatoes, and other crops that the elderly send me. The village chief even wrote a little note, advising me to keep my wealth hidden and pay more attention to myself. These things warmed my heart, and I increasingly felt that returning to the village was a wise decision. At this moment, news came from the Xiao family surveillance, which eased the hatred in my heart. At this time, Xiaoqing's complexion was waxy yellow, his cheeks were green, looking as if he had little time left. In contrast, Shenjiesin and her son seemed to be relatively unchanged. I carefully reviewed the surveillance footage and discovered that Huang secretly left the house the day after she arrived, returning more than an hour later, disheveled, carrying a bag of small bread and 2 bottles of water. Just in time to run into her son, Shenjiesin used the small bread and water to entice her son to keep watch, and the two of them enjoyed a delicious meal together. How could it be acceptable for only Xiaoqing's to go hungry? I carefully selected a few angles and took a flurry of photos of the 4 dishes and a soup paired with ice cola. Then posted a moment on social media visible only to Xiaoqing's. It wasn't long before Xiaoqing's called. "Just picked up." It was a deafening roar. "Lin Yu, where are you? Why are you still drinking cola?" I pretended to be confused and said, "Cola, haven't you ever had it?" Xiaoqing's relentlessly asked where I was, but I ignored him and deliberately drank the cola with a loud slurp. Xiaoqing's over there fell silent, his voice softening as he pleaded, "Wife, I was wrong. I was blinded by that little vixen Shenjiesin. I only now realize that you are the most important woman to me, both my son and I miss you so much. Can you bring some food and come see us?" I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. "You pick up the bowl to eat, then put it down to curse your mother. Now you remember my good side. I have hoarded so much food at home, and you 3 still want me to come to the rescue. Go eat shit." "Food? What food is there?" Before Xiaoqing's could finish his sentence, I hung up the phone and casually deleted my social media post. Let them torment each other. In my past life, none of those 3 were innocent in my tragic death. In this life, how can I allow them to live so freely? On the other side of the surveillance, Xiaoqing's saw me hang up the phone, angrily threw his phone on the sofa, and started searching the whole house for food. Sure enough, a lot of small buns were found under the sofa. Xiaoqing's viciously stuffed the buns into his mouth and took a big gulp of mineral water. "2 bitches, how dare you cheat behind my back? This is what my wife left for me." He ate and drank, and soon the few small buns were gone. Shenjiesin came out of the bedroom and trembled as she said, "What do you mean your wife? That was earned by me. Leave me a little." Xiaoqing's stared at Shenjiesin fiercely. "You earned it? Where did you earn it? Wait, did you fucking sell it?" Shenjiesin's eyes darted around as she said, Didn't mean to, there was nothing to eat at home, and I was so hungry I felt dizzy. When Yaozu mentioned it, the son shouted, "It's not me, it's that shameless woman who went on her own. If it weren't for you inciting me, how could I not share with Brother Xiao? Brother Xiao is the father of my future child." The son wanted to explain something else, but was knocked unconscious by a slap from Xiao Qingze. I don't care whose idea it was, he stared ominously at Shinjusin. "You are my woman, carrying my child, you have me in your heart, we can live well only after the apocalypse is over, don't you think so?" Shinjusin nodded tremulously, helping Xiao Qingze lift their son and throw him into the basement. From that day on, Shinjusin frequently went alone to the third floor, each time bringing back a little food. Xiao Qingze had food to eat, but he couldn't be bothered to even touch Shinjusin, only focusing on devouring the main portion himself, casually tossing some leftovers to Shinjusin to fill her stomach. His mental state was deteriorating. The day before, he had just violently attacked Shinjusin, and the next day he was kneeling on the ground, saying he had money and would give all the good things to Shinjusin, begging her to endure just a little longer. Shinjusin's belly was getting bigger, but she was rapidly losing weight. In the surveillance footage, she was curled up in the corner, gnawing on bread while glaring at Xiao Qingze with a sinister expression. It seems that the days of dogs biting dogs are upon us. At this time, the heat wave had already lasted for 2 months, and the Xiao family was in trouble. Shinjusin finished a dry piece of bread and reached out for water, only to be harshly slapped by Xiao Qingze. "Damn bitch, there's only this much water, how much more do you want to drink?" Shinjusin's hair was disheveled as she angrily threw something at Xiao Qingze. "You bastard, this is the water I earned, I can drink as much as I want." "Earned? Did you sell yourself outside and feel proud of it?" As he spoke, Xiao Qingze chugged a bottle of water, and Shinjusin rushed over to snatch it, but only managed to lick a bit from the bottom of the bottle. She completely broke down. "You useless piece of trash, the water I worked so hard to earn, you didn't leave me a single drop. All you think about is surviving. Have you thought about me and the child in my womb? You keep saying you have money, but what good is it now?" Xiao Qingze stared blankly, muttering to himself, "I have money. With money, I can buy anything. What's wrong with me drinking your water?" Shinjusin scratched Xiao Qingze's face with a look that was half crying, half pleading. "What's wrong? This is the water I earned, you need to spit it out and give it back to me now." Xiao Qingze got anxious, flipping over and pinning Shinjusin down, his hands gripping her neck. "You filthy bitch, I'm not even complaining about the dirty water you earned. Bringing back this little bit every day is not enough to fill the gaps in my teeth. It's all your fault. If my wife were here, this would never have happened." Shinjusin was nearly suffocated as she was choked, and she forcefully raised her leg to kick Xiao Qingze in the groin. The pain made Xiao Qingze shudder all over, and he unconsciously let go of Shinjusin. She rushed straight to the kitchen, picked up the cleaver on the counter, and struck Xiao Qingze hard, blood immediately gushing out. "Your wife, with a fool like you, how could your wife possibly look at you? To tell you the truth, the child in my belly is not yours at all. If it weren't for your 2 stinky coins, who the hell would want to be with you? I'm going to Huang Ji's place now, so stop bothering me." Shinjusin shouted in anger while retreating towards the door, her hands trembling as she held the knife. In the moment he turned, Xiao Qingze rushed up and snatched the bone-cutting knife. He raised it high and plunged it into Shinjusin's neck. Shinjusin stared in disbelief, her eyes wide, and fell down. Xiao Qingze was crazed with killing, pulling out the bone-cutting knife forcefully, stabbing down, pulling out, stabbing down. It was only when Shinjusin fell completely silent that Xiao Qingze, as if waking from a dream, put down the knife. He stood dazed on the ground for a while before dragging his half-unconscious son out of the basement. The son woke up in a daze, and before he could scream, he was pressed by Xiao Qingze onto Shinjusin's wound. Xiao Qingze laughed maniacally. "Good son, drink more. There's water in the blood too. She weighs over 100 pounds. That's enough for the 2 of us to drink." The son was initially a bit unable to accept it, but he was so thirsty that he swallowed hard at the sight of the blood in front of him. The sound of water being gulped could be heard from the living room. I felt nauseous watching it, but my heart was incredibly relieved. My revenge has finally borne fruit. These 2 bloodthirsty demons won't escape. The village chief, along with a few young people, dug up the soil and then called me to borrow a small bag of potato seedlings to hang on the drone. Just after sending off the drone, my phone rang. It is Xiaoqing's wife. Our son says he misses his mom. The son on the other end of the phone was crying for his mother. If this were in the past, I would definitely feel heartbroken, wanting to present all the good things to my son, but now, I no longer feel that way. I guess Shinjusin has very little left. The day to close the net has finally come. I hung up the phone and quickly returned to the room to make a video call. The video connected almost instantly. My son and Xiaoqing's somehow managed to clean themselves up completely. My son looked at me with tear-filled eyes and said, "Mom, you finally want to talk to me. Dad and I are about to starve." I don't care how my son pretends to be pitiful. I directly turned the camera around. The air conditioner at 26 degrees was tirelessly blowing cold air. And fresh fruits were laid out on the living room table. Feeling that the impact of this scene wasn't enough, I took an old popsicle from the fridge and enjoyed it in front of the two of them. Xiaoqing's and his son were wide-eyed. "Wife, how come you still have ice cream over there?" I sneered. "I have always liked to stock up. What I have at home is none of your business." Xiaoqing's eyes lit up, and he nudged his son. The son apologized without any sincerity. "Mom, please come pick me and Dad up. I promise I won't speak ill of you anymore." I casually threw away the ice cream stick and grabbed a bottle of cola to drink. "Didn't you say that Shinjusin is your good mother? Why should I save you, just because you have a big face?" The son was stunned, and Xiaoqing's was also stunned. In the next moment, Xiaoqing's punched his son in the face. "It's all your fault, you ingrate. You just follow anyone who flirts with you. It's better to raise a piece of char siu than you." The son, who had been spoiled since childhood, couldn't take this anger and rushed up to punch and kick Xiaoqing's. "You taught me to recognize Shinjusin as my mother. It's all your fault that I don't have ice cream to eat. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll eat you both." Xiaoqing's pulled his son down and made him apologize to me. "Wife, I really know I was wrong. It's all my fault for being confused for a moment. Being deceived by Shinjusin and this heartless thing. The child in Shinjusin's belly is not mine at all. I have already kicked her out. The one I have always loved the most is you. As long as you come to pick me up, I promise to live well with you from now on." The son's little face was scrunched up as he acted cute in front of the camera. "Mom, I know I was wrong. You are the best in the whole world. Please come and save your baby." I coldly scoffed impatiently. "Do you think you two are something special, worth saving by me? A selfish, ungrateful, fair-weather friend, a scoundrel who only sees 2 pounds of meat when it comes to lust. With this attitude, you expect me to save you? Kneel down and slap yourself. Keep slapping until I'm satisfied." Xiaoqing's shot me a venomous glance, biting down on his back teeth as he raised his hand and slapped himself, instantly turning his face red. My son was not to be outdone, his little hands dancing rapidly. I watched for a while and found it a bit boring. "Don't hit anymore." As I opened my mouth, 2 bruised faces simultaneously looked up at me with joy. "I'm not very satisfied. I suggest you both die before coming to find me." The two of them immediately exploded with rage. Xiaoqing's leaned close to the camera with a sinister look. "You filthy bitch! How dare you play me? Don't let me catch you, or I'll eat you alive." His son shouted from the side. "You worthless woman, you don't deserve my support in your old age. Waiting for you to support me is less likely than waiting for me to collect your corpse." I took a sip of ice-cold cola and burped loudly. "By the way, it's not hard to catch me. I'm back in my hometown, just a 3 to 4 hour drive away." I didn't continue to listen to their curses and hung up the phone. With the temperatures so high outside, I want to see if they have the guts to come. I waited at home, left and right, for a month, but Xiaoqing's and his son never came. Xiaoqing's shivered all over, almost couldn't hold it in, and hurriedly got in the car to go with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau. On the day I planted the seeds in the flower pot, my son called, crying and begging me to save him. His father was going to eat him. I felt a pang in my heart. After all, he was a piece of flesh that had fallen from me, but thinking of my son's indifference in my past life, I shook my head and ignored it. A week later, the power started to intermittently return. I logged onto the surveillance equipment and found the house completely empty. Going back through the footage, I saw Xiaoqing's had been eating meat in the basement for several days, once again exhausting all the supplies. Then he staggered out of the house and never returned. I opened a bottle of red wine for myself, celebrating my revenge and complete rebirth. On the day of the harvest, the temperature began to slowly drop, finally reaching normal levels. The country immediately dispatched troops to repair the power lines and delivered a large amount of supplies. Our village, due to its unity and mutual assistance, had no deaths, and under the leadership of the village chief, we began to assist the surrounding villages and towns. Although I don't know if this disaster has truly come to an end, just like every time before, with united will, we will eventually see the light after the clouds. A new year has arrived, the high temperatures have completely ended, and social order is slowly returning to normal. I drove back to that former home at the first opportunity. When I opened the door, there were two skeletons lying in the living room, covered in bite marks and already starting to smell. I called the police and submitted 2 surveillance videos. Those were the 2 videos of Xiaoqingze murdering Shinjusin and their son. It would be best if Xiaoqingze were dead. If not, he should face legal consequences. Justice may be delayed, but it will never be absent. 3 days later, the police found Xiaoqingze's sun-dried corpse by the roadside on the way to my house. I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau with the death certificate to withdraw my divorce application. I legally inherited the remaining 38 million in Xiaoqingze's bank account. After handling these matters, I drove back to the village. At the suggestion of the village chief, I collaborated with the village committee to set up a new type of crop planting greenhouse, providing jobs for young people who go out to work. Amid the hopeful cheers, I walked towards my brand new future.